tuseme ni bahati ya Mungu niko hai. Wale tulifanya kazi nao walienda.
Hii koo iko na ugonjwa mpaka hapa. Hiyo kansa.
Siku hiyo alikuwa kwa kasi. Hata alikufia kwa hiyo mashini juu.
Siendangi kwa kijiji, kwa kiburi. Inakaanga kwa jua.
There's no way you can contaminate, you can poison a whole nation. It's a crime against humanity.
You have maize here, it has a pesticide in it, but if it gets into the pot and you start cooking it, actually the rise in temperature will help that chemical now to mix properly with the food.
While this product says it's supposed to be disposed of in a safe designated place, what is a safe designated place? Where is that safe designated place? Who tells the farmer where that safe designated place is?
The board has never, ever challenged what I have said. In fact, at some point they said I should be careful not to mention the company names. I mean the product names, because they might, I might be sued. But it was bad. There was a time when I would get even death threats.
There is no way something is bad for the American farmer and bad for the European farmer, but now good for the Kenyan farmer.
This organization, from the CEO to the crack, everyone is supposed to be in jail.
Drive to Timau town on a clear morning and you will think you have found paradise. Green farmlands stretch endlessly on both sides of the road. Golden wheat sways in the breeze, bright yellow canola flowers dance in the wind. And rows of perfect potatoes march towards Mount Kenya's majestic peaks. But beneath this postcard-perfect landscape lies a terrifying secret. In the quiet village of Mbaria, families are dying. Not from accidents or old age, but from something far more sinister. The very chemicals meant to protect their crops are killing the people who grow our food. The numbers are staggering. Over 10 people have already died from cancer, and 5 more are fighting for their lives right now. In just 2 years, death has knocked on Lucy McKenna's door 3 times. First, her father-in-law, a tomato farmer who spent decades working the rich soils around Timau. At 85, he should have been enjoying his grandchildren. Instead, he was battling liver cancer that would eventually take his life.
Alianza kugonjeka, mwili wake ukabadilika, tukaenda hospitali wakati tulitumwa na daktari kwa physician. Na wakati alipelekwa kwa physician kuna vipimo aliambiwa akafanyiwe. Wakati alienda huko tulifanyiwa testi mingi na picha mingi, kafanyiwe MRI na zote tukatoka ako na liver cancer, juu mwili wake ulikuwa umetani na akaanza kujikuna, haezi kula, haezi kaa, haezi lala. Wakati ugonjwa ulijulikana ilikuwa late. Na yeye mzee, njoo alikuwa mzee wa miaka 85. Akalose hope, akaona kansa ni kama haiponi. Na yeye kulose hope, ugonjwa uliweza kuenda na yeye. Na tulimsidikisha mwaka huu 2025 mwezi wa pili.
Then came Lucy's own father, Jeremiah Kinoti. For 30 years, he farmed onions, tomatoes, and potatoes while driving a matatu to make ends meet. The man, who had never shown any signs of diabetes in his family, suddenly couldn't control his blood sugar. His illness started slowly, with skin and eye irritation, headaches, dizziness, and nausea. At Kotolengo Mission Hospital, doctors diagnosed him with diabetes, a condition he battled for 15 years before it claimed his life. Now, her mother Rosalia is fighting breast cancer. Her uncle Francis, who is 77, can barely swallow food as throat cancer ravages his body. The pattern is unmistakable, and it is spreading through this farming community like wildfire. Rosalia explains how decades of chemical exposure finally caught up with her.
Nilipimba hii mkono mwezi wa 3 2024. Nikaenda hospitali, nikaambiwa nikatwe kanyama ifanyiwe testing. Ndio ikipelekwa, ikitokea ipimwe ionekane ni nini. Ikionekana niliambiwa niko na breast cancer. Hapo nikaanza ku matibabu.
Mwaka wa 2024 tarehe 11 bibi yangu akaanza kusikia mbaya kwa siku chache. Alikuwa ananiambia nasikia kifua nini kujikuna, kutoa jasho. Siku hiyo usiku Jumapili akafa, na mimi nilikuwa hapo. Halafu mimi nikaanza kusikia kwa hiyo koo nikiwa kitu natafika na kohoa, natafika na kohoa, natafika. Hakuna kitu nilikuwa nakula.
After being misdiagnosed with ulcers, Marete was eventually diagnosed with a cancerous tumor in his throat. The doctors have confirmed what many in this community suspected, but feared to say out loud.
Hii koo iko na ugonjwa mpaka hapa. Hiyo kansa. Nasikia mwili iko ovyo, haina nguvu. Nasikia hata kutembea. Nasikia hii miguu haiwezi kuenda vizuri. Madaktari walisema hii madawa tunaweka kwa shamba ndio inaharibu sisi kwa mwili. Walikuwa wanatumwa kutoka Nairobi wakaenda General, wale wa General wakaja mpaka nyumbani. Wakaja wakaniambia mimi naambiwa nikuje hapa nichukue mchanga mahali unapanda vegetables na chukue maji na chukue chakula ile tunakula. Wakachukua wakaenda.
Francis and his family are still waiting for the test results, but his observation about farming practices reveals a troubling truth about how chemical use has intensified over the years.
Kwa area yangu yote tuko na watu karibu zaidi ya 10 ni wanaogonjeka na hiyo ugonjwa wa kansa. Lakini kuna wengi ndani, wengine hawajui kama wako naye. Lakini ukimwangalia kwa vile anaenda, unaona huyu mtu iko na kitu mwili yake hakuna mzuri.
Francis describes the devastating physical effects he experiences daily, symptoms that paint a picture of a nervous system under assault.
Nikiamka asubuhi siwezi sika kitu kwa varindi. Kwa hii kucha inataka kama kungoleka kutoka. Ndio niwaza nipigwe na jua mpaka iwe mzuri. Na hii hata miguu mpaka hapa nashika moto usiku.
In the same village lives Charles Rutere, a man whose stumble might at first glance be mistaken for intoxication. For over 30 years, he was the village's go-to sprayer. In the days before mobile phones, families would send for him, and he would always show up armed with nothing but his clothes. No overalls, no gloves, no mask, no gumboots. And now, his body is paying the price.
Hii mikono, kushika kitu, sisikii. Mguu kwenda, kama msumari iko kwa miguu. Ikiwa kwa mkono, mimi naiona niko naye. Lakini kwa mkono wangu, haiko. Nitasikia moto, kwa sababu itanichoma. Lakini uchungu sina.
His problems started in 2012 after 30 years of spraying pesticides in people's farms. Rutere also recalls being instructed by farm owners on how to use the pesticide products and often going to bed with the same clothes that he was working in.
Naenda kwa Agrovet, tunanunua ndawa. Unaambiwa weka miezi ngapi? Kama 2015. Hakuna kitu kingine. Tunafuata vile tulie. Mwenye Agrovet kutusia, ndio tutaendeshana naye, si ndio? Akiniambia ni 15, nitaweka miezi 15. Hakuna ilani.
Charles now realizes the connection between his condition and decades of chemical exposure, but the damage is irreversible.
Hata vanisi kiangi. Iko wakati mimi napiga ile inaitwa concrete mixture. Hii kokoto. Siendangi kwa kijiji, kwa kiburi. Inakaanga kwa jua. Hakuna joto.
Nancy Wambugu has been the village's female sprayer and casual laborer for 35 years, driven by poverty into work that would slowly destroy her health.
Mimi nimeanza kulima miaka 35 leo na niko na shamba yangu ninalima. Mimi napewa hata kibarua ya kwenda kwa spray kwa shamba, na hiyo dawa ninatumia ile dawa ya kukausha nyanzi, ninatumia dawa hata ya kuhera ikwashe viazi. Sasa hiyo madawa yote wakati ninafanya hiyo kazi, nikienda nyumbani nasikia mbaya. Nasikia kichwa inaniuma. Tena pia ninasikia kwa hii mafua pamoja na koo pamoja na tumbo na hata magoti inaniuma na kusahau mambo mingi.
Like Charles, Nancy worked largely without protective gear due to ignorance about the dangers. But now, all that remains is regret and concern for her children who have followed in her very footsteps.
Na hata wakati nilianza kutumia yenyewe, mimi nikitumia kwa shamba yangu, nilienda hivyo hivyo. Hakuna kitu kingine nilikuweko najua. Ama sikuwa najua kama itanizuru. Sikuwa najua itanizuru. Maana ukijua kitu itakuzuru, utawacha. Ndio kama sikutumia hiyo dawa, maisha yangu haingekuwa hivyo. Maana hata macho yangu haioni.
The problems extend beyond individual farmers to the people who sell these chemicals. Fidis Kairuthi, an Agrovet shop owner, has observed that farmers often don't read instructions properly, either due to illiteracy or because the text is too small. Most have no protective gear and ignore the need to bathe after using the chemicals.
Sasa ukiambia mkulima apime kama 10 mils, unakuta mkulima anatumia hata 50 mils kwa sababu bado hajasoma na anataka itoe vizuri venye wameambiwa itatoa vizuri.
Even Fidis, who sells these chemicals, has experienced their harmful effects firsthand.
Mimi mwenyewe naziuza, saa zingine zinaniathiri kwa sababu nakaa kujikuna. So hata nikiuza ndawa saa zingine na tafuta mahali naweza toka kidogo ndio niache niweze kupumua vizuri. Wakati nilikuwa na mimba ya mtoto wangu mdogo, ako na miezi 10 saa hizi, hizo ndawa ziliniathiri vibaya, hata huyo mtoto hakufikisha miezi vizuri na nilikuwa na shinda ya kupumua.
The struggles of this village caught the attention of Priska Munywa, a dedicated nurse who, since February, runs the Divine Wellness and Resource Center at the village shopping center. Here, she creates awareness about the dangers of pesticide exposure, promotes organic farming, and provides detoxification services for those who are already affected. She also offers counseling to those in need.
The reason as to why I set up this place is because in my home area, I realized that people are having very serious issues. 1 minute you come, you meet someone, she's not so bad. The next time you come around, they've passed on. Every time you come and interact with them and ask them how they've been doing, they are always telling you they are coming from a barrio, from the neighborhood.
Priska explains that she has observed many chronic conditions reported in the village, creating a pattern that points directly to chemical exposure.
Most of the patients that come around here and even in the nearby hospitals and the clinics, they complain of joint pains. Some of them have the numbness or the nerve involvement or nerve issues. Others have gastritis, which is the inflammation of the stomach lining. And even some have already developed some stomach ulcers. The others that will come with low libido, that is for men. And for the ladies, some of them will come with the cases of secondary infertility.
Other patients, including young people, are being diagnosed with diabetes despite having no family history of the disease. Some have liver diseases, autoimmune issues like rheumatoid arthritis, bronchitis, and asthma, all without any genetic predisposition.
When you go deeper, there are many cases of cancer. Most of the cases here are prostate cancers, they have breast cancers, that are also linked to the same chemicals. And you also find a number of them with the stomach ulcers and others also with the throat cancer. The chemicals that they are using, when they disrupt the endocrine hormones, now they start introducing these illnesses that are linked like infertility.
To address these issues, Priska's Wellness Center opens twice a month for several days, where she provides advice, detoxification therapies, and referrals for serious cases requiring hospital investigation and management. Priska's concerns extend to the next generation as she plans to assess school children who may have been affected by the same chemical exposure.
If they are affected, to what level and how can they be assisted? Yes, because with the exposure of the chemicals, we also get the developmental issues with the children. And if these people, the pregnant mothers, are eating the same food that is going through the chemicals, they are handling the same chemicals that are being spread around, we expect those children that they give birth to by product of the same things that they've been using or they are being exposed to.
This crisis isn't confined to Timau. At the neighboring Daiga village in Laikipia County, the same health crisis exists, slowly chipping away at families and dreams like those of John Kiunjuri, who has battled Parkinson's disease since 1994. A carpenter and plumber by profession, Kiunjuri's first contact with pesticides was at a farm that produced vegetables, French beans, and green peas on a large scale.
Mimi nilikuwa plumber. Kwa hivyo nilikuwa nikiwekwa hizi tunaitaga mfereji ya kupeleka maji kwa mimea. Nilikuwa nikichanganya na machini dawa ambayo walikuwa naleta. Sikuwa najua ni baya, lakini nilikuwa nakoroga na mkono. Alafu inaenda kwa mfereji. Hakukuwa gloves wakati huo. Gloves nimeziona baadaye kitu 1997 hivi. Iko wapi sasa?
Kiunjuri's hands started shaking in 1994. He sought medical care at the company's health center, but the doctor couldn't diagnose his condition. Over 30 years later, his hands still shake uncontrollably.
Tusema ni bahati ya Mungu niko hai. Wale tulifanya kazi nao walienda. Wale tulikuwa nao huko hawako. Ilikuwa tu akienda ni kutetemeka, pia kupotea macho na kusema sijui roho inapiga. Ingine nasema roho inasikia uchungu.
John's story highlights a growing scientific consensus about the dangers of pesticides. A study published in Nature Communications in May 2023 by researchers from UCLA Health and Harvard found that 10 specific pesticide ingredients, including dicofol and glyphosate, can damage neurons and are linked to Parkinson's disease. The connection between pesticides and breast cancer is also becoming clearer, especially through occupational exposure. Pesticides act as endocrine disruptors, interfering with hormone function and promoting abnormal cell growth. Within and beyond these two counties, another crisis involves the improper disposal of empty pesticide containers, presenting serious risks to people, animals, and the environment. Even empty containers hold hazardous residues that can contaminate soil and water, harming ecosystems and potentially entering our food and drinking water and harming aquatic animals. In Mwea, John Gijohi, a rice farmer, explains how he usually disposes of his empty containers.
Kiiwa na choma sababu ya watoto, naweza fikiria kuweka maji wakunywe nayo na ni mbaya.
Other farmers have different approaches to disposal, but none of them are safe.
Hizo saa mimi nafunganga, kuna pahali niko na mandizi. Hiyo mandizi nilikuwa nazirusha hapo katikati.
Behind me is a farm where this product that we found just right here on the ditch, where the water flows straight down there to the river. It was manufactured by Shanghai Hulian Biopharmaceutical Company. It is distributed by Eurochem International Limited. And we have a number of contraindications for this product. So it says that you're supposed to control the spill at the source to prevent it from spreading or contaminating the soil. This product is toxic to fish. They say do not contaminate water by disposal of product waste. So how to dispose this product? According to the instructions right here, you're supposed to triple rinse and puncture empty containers and dispose of in a safe designated place. Do not contaminate water sources by disposal of this product, its rinse or its empty container. Do not reuse the empty container for any other purposes. So while this product says it's supposed to be disposed of in a safe designated place, what is a safe designated place? Where is that safe designated place? Who tells the farmer where that safe designated place is? I'm going to carry it and dump it somewhere, probably in a pit latrine.
In Masinga village, we conduct a random spot check in a tomato farm to check the condition of tomatoes at the point of harvesting and collect over 10 empty containers along a 100-meter stretch, some dumped on the soil while others hung on poles. Some of these containers are not registered for use in Kenya. We also find a mixing container with residue near a pond that holds Masinga Dam overflow. This confirms earlier concerns from Frederick Mushiri, the Chief Executive Officer of the Pest Control Products Board, that pesticides are being smuggled into the country from the Kenya-Tanzania and the Kenya-Uganda borders. Environmental rights advocate Calvin Kobai weighs in on the matter.
There is no law that prohibits one from living downstream. And with people who living downstream, they've been nearly condemned to death. More often we've tried to blame farmers.
These containers end up in the wrong places.
Shockingly, we found these containers just meters away from water sources, from rivers. Waking up in the morning, many times I meet these trucks from the city, from the city council of Nairobi, collecting garbage. But more often than not, you will never find any such container transversing our villages collecting these sachets and containers, which is foreseeable by these manufacturers and producers, which is a duty squarely on their shoulders as per Articles 46 of our Constitution on the Consumer Protection and Articles 42, 69 and 70 of our Constitution, which pertain environmental right.
However, the PCPB CEO says it is the job of NEMA and county governments, together with the board, to identify places where farmers can drop off empty pesticide containers for collection and disposal.
The Agrochemicals Association of Kenya is supposed to meet the cost of disposal, and they have been doing it where farmers have taken the empties.
Even though he insists that agrochemical companies have been collecting empty containers from collection centers, the CEO was at pains to name the counties that host the centers.
I cannot give you outright offer,
Sorry?
That data is somewhere. The only thing PCPB can do is build the capacity of the county extension service.
Mushiri stated that the Pest Control Products Board, PCPB, has not monitored the link between pesticide exposure and diseases like Parkinson's and cancer, and that the Ministry of Health lacks the necessary epidemiological data to establish this connection. However, Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe announced the immediate withdrawal of 77 pesticide active ingredients and restrictions on 202 products to protect public and environmental health. Dr. Ayub Masharia from the National Environment Management Authority noted that prior to November 2024, companies weren't required to manage pesticide containers. NEMA has since introduced new extended producer responsibility regulations to hold producers accountable for their products throughout their life cycle.
It is the company that placed the item on the market that is responsible for managing those containers. We are actually now at enforcement stage. And these companies, after the law came into effect, the companies were given 6 months to comply.
Yeah.
And so that is from November up to May. So it was the period was expiring on 5th of May. This year. If you are a company, a producer, and another producer with the same product, and another producer, like all pesticide companies, they come together so that they benefit from economies of scale. We are reviewing the documents, and they will be registered soon once they fulfill all the conditions.
The evidence is undeniable. Our farmers, our food, and our future are at risk. We need a concerted effort from the government and agricultural extension officers to educate our farmers about safer farming practices, to promote organic alternatives, and ensure strict regulation of these dangerous chemicals. The health of our nation depends on it.
Nancy McKenna tears up easily at the mention of her late husband's name. When he was buried at his home at Miamoja village in Nanyuki, hers and her children's dreams were buried with him. She recalls the chilling phone call from her husband's colleague that her husband had fallen sick and been rushed to hospital. At the facility, she met officials from the flower farm where he worked as an excavator operator.
Alianzia kazi kama 98. Kuanzia 98 aliandikwa mtu wa operator. Siku moja akaambiwa ataenda kwa hii dawa. Akapulimu sana, akawauliza kwa nini nimetoka hapa nipelekwe kwa dawa. Mimi sijawahi kutoa hii kazi ya dawa. Na sijatunzwa vile nitaendelea na dawa. Akaambiwa hapana, kazi ni kazi, lazima utoe kazi ile unapewa. Siku hiyo akaanzia kutoboka huku midomo, mikono na huku miguu. Na kuanzia kukuliwa na tumbo. Akikula kitu anatapika.
The company covered medical expenses up to 15,000 shillings annually, but anything beyond came from his salary. Nancy managed the household and the children's expenses.
Siku hiyo alikuwa kwa kazi. Hata alikufia kwa hiyo mashini juu. Ya kupokea zaidi waliona ameshindwa kabisa. Ndio alipatiwa ile mashini yake ya kuendelea nakaa, lakini alikufia kwa hiyo mashini, alitolewa juu. Hata alikuwa ameweka mshanga lori moja. Ya pili sasa alikufa akikojea ikuje aweke tena. Hiyo kabuni ndiyo ilikuwa mzee wangu. Juu hata akitoka hospitali leo, sasa ile unaambiwa ati apewe siku sasa apumzike nyumbani, hata akunywe dawa. Hakuna. Unaona gari tu inamkujia, anaenda. Anapelekwa kwa kazi. Akigonjeka anapiga simu, nimeshindwa na kwenda. Unaona gari inamkujia.
When his condition worsened and he sought treatment outside the company, doctors found kidney and liver problems.
Daktari mwenyewe aliniambia hapa mama kangu hakuna kitu, nangojea hapa, omba Mungu tu juu hana vigo inaanzia kuisha na ile ini. Akaniambia kwanza ini hakuna, akaniambia nikae na nguvu tu.
Since her husband's death, she resorted to casual labor to feed her children, all of whom dropped out of school for lack of fees. The company provided only vegetables and firewood, promising to educate the children. It was a promise that was never kept.
Kijana wangu ule alimaliza shule. Baba yake alimwashia form 2 second term. Wakinikabia ule kuna mkubwa nilikuwa na simu yake. Ati nikiona shida nimpigie. Nikamwambia kijana yangu amemaliza shule. Na sina nguvu ya kupeleka mbele. Akaniambia ati atamwambia aende afanye kazi. Mtoto wangu alikaa kwa geti miezi 3.
Makena's story echoes throughout Naivasha, where most residents work in flower farms. At Soy and Services Estate, Roslyn Mbaye worked in the grading section for 14 years before developing breathing problems and swelling in her foot and her right hand.
Mwanzo nilikuwa tu grader wa kawaida. Nilikuwa grading. Halafu nikapewa kazi ya recording. Sasa nikakuja hapa nje receiving. Panaitwa receiving. Juu ni mahali mawe kitoka kwa shamba. Ikifikishwa na shukisha ndo kadhaa nikague kabla ingie kwa barafu. Zimetoka kwa shamba kama zimesprayiwa. Zikikuja kwa barafu, kwa kawaida mawe inafaa ikae 8 hours kabla ufikie wewe mfungaji. At least hiyo dawa iwe. Lakini unakuta iko na oda. Imeingia imetoa.
And then she fell ill. Her left foot and her right hand swelled and throbbed with pain, and she started struggling to breathe. The company doctor blamed the cold weather, but at the district hospitals, X-rays revealed shadows in her chest.
Daktari aliniambia itabidi waache kazi. Kwa sababu hata akaniambia unaona wale watu wenye wanaambiwa wali collapse. Okay. Ndio aliniuliza na hiyo hewa ikienda hivyo ujaribu kurudisha ikatae, next ni nini? Kabidi nichukue hatua. Wakati nilitoka huko nikafuatilia matibabu ya kifua. After 2 months nilistukia tu nikaanza kuuliza na si nilikuwa na hewa ilikuwa ina kurienda aje. Juu hiyo kitu iliisha tu hivyo. Okay. Huu mguu ulikuwa nikitembea sana inauma inawaka moto. Yes, sai bado imevula lakini sasa haina uchungu.
She is not alone. Many have also been affected.
Kuna mama mmoja alipoteza maisha yake na kuna wakati tulikuwa tunaenda na yeye kwa hospitali akawa pia ameambiwa itabidi kazi either uache ama alienda tu hivyo. Hata nikasema I wish labda haingempata.
In Kihoto village, 46-year-old Peter Omwenga worked in harvesting at a nearby flower farm. Now, he suffers from persistent stomach upsets and coughs with bloody sputum. Hospital tests, including colonoscopy, H. pylori, and ulcer screenings, all came back negative.
Ilianza shida ya tumbo hivi, kukoa kwa mwezi ikiwa na wiki 4. Wiki moja ndio niko sawa sikoi. Nilikuwa nakoa na mpaka watu wanasema ni TB. Ni nini? Kupimwa hakuna kitu. Nikapimwa na mpaka colonoscopy hakuna. H. pylori hakuna. RSS ilipimwa yote hakuna. Ingia kwa gari ni kukoa mpaka ufike kwa kampuni. Ukitoke kukoa hiyo maua, hata ukitoka ndani, hata ukitema maji mate ni kama damu.
When his health deteriorated in September 2024, the company doctor couldn't establish the disease and recommended a sick leave. Since September, the persistent cough subsided, confirming it was chemical exposure.
Lakini nilikuwa nataka wanipima hata damu, uone hiyo dawa imeingia. Sasa ngasikia wakianza story nyingine, sasa ni sick off. Vile niliacha, saa hii hiyo homa iliisha. Kuonekana ni hiyo fumbi ya madawa ilikuwa inanisumbua, lakini tumbo inanilemea. Ichaisha ni kama iliaffect tumbo.
Francis Washira, a community health promoter at Kihoto village in Naivasha, explains that most people who work at flower farms are unwell and that children are also paying the price because mothers leave them for prolonged periods as they go to work.
Shida nyingi za hawa watu wa maua walicho nacho. Wengi madawa imewaua. Wengi wanakuwa wagonjwa kila mara. Magonjwa hii ya ngozi, magonjwa ya kuumwa na kichwa, kuna magonjwa ya macho. Nimekutana na magonjwa kama ya kuhara. Nimekutana na magonjwa kama ya tuseme depression. Watoto wengi hata hapa hawasomi, wanakuwa hawana nguvu katika mwili. Naona na hata wengine unaona wanahara na kukohoa kila mara. Sijui sababu already hata kama wale wananyonyeshwa. Unaona wananyonyeshwa na baadaye unakuta mtoto amekuwa mdhaifu. Hawakui haraka. Unaona mtoto hata ukimpima haongezi weight.
Amos, who has worked at a flower farm in Naivasha for over 15 years, says that the sexual health of most men working in flower farms has been affected. Many have been dumped by their wives who believe that their non-performance is as a result of an affair.
Niliachwa, wale wenye nilikuwa najua wengi waliacha kazi kwa sababu ya frustration. Bibi amemwacha na ukiuliza ni nini tu mtu hayuko.
Beyond sexual health, 5 years of chemical exposure affects mental function, manifesting in short temper, memory problems, and personality changes. Some have even taken their own lives.
Vile tunaongea hapa sasa hivi, wameenda kusika mtu kwa sababu chukua maisha yake. Last year tumekuwa na ngapi? 3 wanaume wote. Na ukiangalia, ukiulizia vizuri, utapata kila mtu alikuwa anafanya napi?
According to Amos, employees raising health concerns face systematic termination, full pay, sick leave, then half pay, then unpaid leave, then dismissal.
Hizo chemicals kama ni daktari, anajua kwamba hii chemical ina-affect mfanyakazi, hata ambia mfanyakazi kama ni chemical. Then wana twist, wanacheza nayo.
Dr. Stephen Ngigi, Deputy Director of Medical Services in Murang'a County, explains that organophosphates and glyphosate, which are commonly used pesticides, enter the body through skin absorption, not just ingestion.
It can actually enter through the skin. And you can see those patients, in the outpatient, they come with changes in the skin. They might have acute allergic dermatitis. They might have changes on their skin, and then they start experiencing neurologic symptoms like feeling, paresthesia, which we refer to as a pins and prick sensation of their forearms, because mostly they are using their hands to handle the pesticide. They come with numbness of extremity, and sometimes they are unable to use their hands or arm. It can be misdiagnosed for other neuropathic diseases or even arthritis.
He explains that the widespread use of pesticides has been accompanied by a lack of proper hygiene in handling food before cooking. This, he says, exposes chemicals to heat, making them more harmful.
You have maize here. It has a pesticide in it. The person who is, milling the maize to make it flour or using it to prepare githeri does not clean it properly. Ideally, it should be cleaned with a lot of water so that you wipe off the pesticides that are, on the surface before you start cooking it. But if it gets into the pot and you start cooking it, actually the rise in temperature will help that chemical now to mix properly with the food.
Once in the bloodstream, the damage intensifies as the chemical reaches the liver for detoxification.
Things like tomatoes, when they are sprayed with those pesticides, they are doing it so that it lasts longer. The tomato can last longer in the household. If you have to use it, you have to clean it thoroughly. Many of the households now are cleaning the tomato with the soap and water, running water. If it's rice, they are also cleaning it until they stop seeing the white substance that, that milky substance that comes from it before they cook it. Because, and also issues of salads, those people who like making fruit salads and breading fruits, they have to really clean those fruits, because that's where there is a potential risk of a pesticide getting contaminated into your salad. If you start having bizarre, symptoms, you are leading a normal life, you are okay, then you start having things like the paresthesia, the numbness of extremity, start having problems with the skin, and you start realizing your memory is going down. First of all, clinically, you should be able to see there's something changing in you. Number two, you can go for checkup. We can analyze your urine for some of these things, the heavy metal toxins, as well as the blood samples. So, because people, at the point they are now, they will tell you, have already eaten the things you are telling me, Doctor. So what do you want me to do now? Tumeshakula. So the question is, you can be going, during your birthday, you can be doing a screen, urinalysis, to analyze all those, whether you have been exposed to toxins. You don't have to wait for the symptoms to go to the hospital.
The fight against pesticides began on September 2nd, 2019, when Gladys Bose petitioned the National Assembly for an immediate ban on all pesticides due to human and environmental health risks.
24 products that cause cancer, 24 products that are mutagenic, 35 products that cause endocrine disruption, 140 products that are neurotoxic, and they are causing brain damage in children, 262 other products that show clear effects on reproduction, toxicity, and are carcinogenic.
Bose revealed that 44% of pesticides used in Kenya are banned in Europe and other jurisdictions, but remain permitted in Kenya. Pesticide imports more than doubled from 6,400 tons in 2015 to 15,600 tons in 2018, representing a 144% growth rate.
They were banned in the whole of North America, and they were banned in the whole entire Europe and the United Kingdom. And so they are not for use there. But because it's big business for them, and Africa is actually the market that they have now when it's banned in their countries, the law there said that you can continue to manufacture those products only for export, not for use in their own country, but for export to a country that allows it. But I always say to a country that's reckless and stupid enough to accept those products, because they're killing their own people. And that's what's been happening in Kenya.
Despite parliamentary approval, the 12th Parliament never implemented the petition. Bose appealed to various committees, but the Pest Control Products Board, PCPB, never acted.
I also took issue with the Committee of Parliament. I said, you should not have told them to take action. You should have plain, clearly said that the following chemicals are banned. That would have been an easier way, because we threw the ball back to the criminals who had failed to do their job in the first place. I can say this with no fear of contradiction, that the board has been in bed with the agrochemical companies, because it's huge money. There's no other reason why they would not do their job. And the agrochemical companies know their survival depends on it. Eventually we said, if the board is not going to act, if the ministry is not going to act, we then passed in Parliament the Business Law Amendment Bill, which clearly put in a clause there that said that if a product is not approved for use in the country of origin, then it cannot be allowed to be imported into Kenya.
The solution, says Boss, is to have locally manufactured safe pesticides. She, however, notes that Kenya's capacity to produce pyrethrum has been undermined.
In the 70s, Kenya was producing 90% of the world's pyrethrum. Not Africa's pyrethrum, the world's pyrethrum. And currently, we are producing less than 10%. Not even enough for the local market.
Return of investment.
In 2022, the African Center for Corrective and Preventive Action with advocate Kelvin Kobai filed a petition implicating the government, PCPB, and agrochemical companies.
We did move to the High Court of Kenya on grounds of violation of environmental and consumer rights of Kenyan farmers and consumers. Every Kenyan has a right to food, sufficient food, and most importantly is that this food must be of acceptable quality. So when you look at Article 46 further on consumer rights, more in specific also Clause 2 of the same article, it provides for safe, decent and honest advertisement, and also provides that all product available, all goods and services offered to the Kenyan consumers must be of acceptable quality. And all these goods must, not have other effect. And it actually goes further to say that where these goods are found to have harmed the Kenyan populace, they have a right, even including right to compensation.
He raises alarm that there is a concerning correlation between the intensive agricultural activities in Kenya and the rising cancer rates, particularly in regions known for extensive farming of crops such as maize, potatoes, and horticultural produce, which heavily rely on high volumes of pesticides.
The most counties with the highest number of cancer cases are Nairobi, Kiambu, Nakuru, Meru, and shockingly or expectantly, these are the same counties where we have extensive and intensive agriculture. And the bitter truth that every Kenyan should know today is the food reaching our dining table is not of acceptable quality. And the main reason why it's not of acceptable quality is because we failed to protect our farmers.
We realized some of these chemicals actually were produced for warfare. Specifically, you'll find some brands that were produced in Switzerland, and they had overproduced for warfare, Second World War. So when the war ended, so where could they take these chemicals to? So they started developing those chemicals to suit agricultural activities. And that's how we've been killing our people, with compounds developed for war, for combat. Who allowed these chemicals into our country? These chemicals, globally, are referred to forever chemicals. You cannot break that compound. It can take you maybe 1,000 years, because you may not be a farmer, but you consume produces. Because you're in Nairobi, you are in an apartment, you don't know where this tomato is coming from, this onion, this turmeric, this garlic, but that vegetable is highly contaminated.
You can expect those determined to produce the pesticides that you don't want to fight back. And they will fight back as severe guerrillas. They will fight back through the media, ensuring that the media is reporting good things and fighting back on dangerous chemicals that we want to ban. They will fight back in our legislative houses, bribing members of parliament and others. They will fight back in our own ministries to ensure that they have got their own agendas being sustained within the ministries.
There's no way you can contaminate, you can poison a whole nation. It's a crime against humanity. Whatever is happening in agriculture in Kenya is a crime against humanity. And it's something that needs to be addressed by everyone, from State House to Parliament to the judiciary. These organization called PCPB. From the CEO to the crack, everyone is supposed to be in jail.
Eric Kimunguyi of the Agrochemical Association of Kenya, however, defends pesticide use, citing Kenya's tropical climate and year-round pest multiplication.
We are in the tropics. Climate is changing very fast. The pests are multiplying higher than we expect. You cannot compare pest multiplication here and in Europe because they have different seasons. As we have, throughout the year, pests are multiplying. Farmers buy pest control products because of the need. They need it. If those pests are not there, you will not see those products.
When questioned about the safety of the pesticides and pest control products on human use, advertising loopholes, and farmer inability to afford protective gear, he paints a complex picture that blends genuine efforts to protect farmers with what can be interpreted as industry-centric tactics that perhaps unintentionally encourage the uptake of synthetic pesticides.
Yes, they're poisons, necessary poisons, designed to kill a certain organism that's causing harm to protect the crops that we eat. And for them to be approved, to be used, to be approved for use, that their impact must be evaluated. Pest control products, when used as approved, they should not pose any danger.
However, this assertion that products should not pose any danger if used as approved creates an impression of inherent safety and potentially downplays the very real risks that arise from misuse or chronic low-level exposure, which are prevalent challenges for smallholder farmers. Recent studies in Kenya indicate that a significant percentage of pesticides in use are highly hazardous, and residues exceeding European limits are found in food samples, directly contradicting the idea of universal safety.
There could be challenges in getting personal protective equipment for most farmers. Most of them are improvising to use, and that one is protecting them. But to what extent you are mentioning about those diseases is difficult to say. It's also impossible. It needs scientists to go and investigate and find the root cause.
He proposes spray service providers as a solution, trained farmers who can afford proper equipment and protective gear to spray on behalf of others.
If he comes to your farm and he can apply a product in 1 acre and you pay him, one thing he does is that he removes the burden of you buying a personal protective equipment. You don't need it. Two, the second aspect that he does is that he applies it to it, so you get the full utility of the product. The third aspect, he helps in the identification of the pest and disease because he has been trained, is educated, and is experienced.
When questioned about openness of agrochemical companies to inform farmers of harm caused by pest control products in advertisements, Kimunguyi explicitly states that farmers should read the label on pest control containers to understand the effects of the product they would like to use.
So once you go to the label, all the summary of the information that is submitted for you to use is there. So rather than even banning these products, just remove the pest.
Our clarion call is there is no way something is good for the American farmer and it is now bad for the Kenyan farmer, or something is bad for the American farmer and bad for the European farmer, but now good for the Kenyan farmer, because the conditions of the Kenyan farmer are even more vulnerable, and the Kenyan farmer should even be more protected.
We are not requesting anyone. We are demanding equal treatment from whatever is happening in the US, whatever is happening in the European Union should also happen in Africa. With this petition, we are going to escalate it to the African Union, so that this can form part of discussion within the African Union, systems that look into agriculture, because there is a deliberate effort to poison Africans with what we are calling agrocolonialism.
The human cost of this crisis is immeasurable. Families shattered, health destroyed, dreams buried. And while the recent steps by the Ministry of Agriculture offer a beacon of hope, the pervasive influence of pesticide cartels continues to be a significant threat, and so the journey towards a truly poison-free harvest and a healthy future for the Kenyan farmer and the Kenyan consumer is an ongoing battle, and it's one that we must all be part of. Mercy Chelangat, NTV.